Marriage is compromise. Unless your wife's idea of compromise is taking your kidney money and buying her sister a chocolate fountain. I'm Darren Whitlock, 42 years old, and I supervise a delivery fleet for a mid-sized logistics company in what used to be a decent working-class neighborhood. These days, it's mostly chain restaurants and overpriced coffee shops, but the people are still real. At least, I thought they were. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My phone buzzed as I sat in Dr. Heller's waiting room, scrolling through medical pamphlets about kidney stones that had grown into something much worse. The notification was from my bank. Emergency fund withdrawal, $8,500. My hands went cold. Mr. Whitlock? The nurse called my name, but I was staring at my phone screen like it might change if I blinked hard enough. $8,500. Gone. Just a minute, I called back, my voice cracking slightly. I opened the banking app with trembling fingers. 3 more withdrawals over the past week. $12,000 total, our entire emergency fund wiped out. I knew exactly who had access to that account. Dr. Heller's office felt smaller than usual as he explained that my condition had worsened. We need to schedule surgery within the next 2 weeks, Darren. The stones have caused significant damage, and there's risk of permanent kidney failure if we wait much longer. How much? I asked, though I already knew the answer would hurt. With your insurance, you're looking at about $15,000 out of pocket. I know it's a lot, but the money's gone, I said quietly. Dr. Heller frowned. Gone? What do you mean? My wife withdrew our emergency fund. For her sister's wedding? The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Dr. Heller had been my physician for 8 years. He'd seen me through 2 promotions, a minor heart episode, and countless stress-related visits that always seemed to coincide with Marina's latest obsessions. Darren, this surgery isn't optional. We can discuss payment plans, but your health? I understand, Doc. Give me a few days to figure this out. I drove home in my 10-year-old Honda, past the house where Marina and I had lived for 6 years. It looked the same as always, small, neat, with the garden she'd stopped caring about once she discovered Instagram. But something felt different now. Maybe it was me. The front door was unlocked, and I could hear Marina's voice from the kitchen, animated and excited in a way she hadn't sounded when talking to me in months. Absolutely perfect. The venue coordinator said it's the most elegant setup they've done all year. Amber's going to fade when she sees the ice sculpture. Ice sculpture. With my kidney money. I stood in the hallway, listening to my wife plan a party with the funds meant to save my life, and felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was something much more dangerous. It was clarity. The chocolate fountain alone cost $3,000, but it's worth it for the photos. This wedding is going to be featured in every blog in the state. Marina's voice carried that breathless quality it always had when she talked about her sister Amber. Amber, who'd never worked a real job in her life, but somehow always had money for designer clothes and exotic vacations. Amber, who'd been engaged 4 times and married twice before turning 34. Amber, who treated everyone around her like unpaid servants in the grand production of her life. I walked into the kitchen. Marina was sitting at our small table, surrounded by fabric swatches, catering menus, and her laptop open to what looked like a wedding planning website. She glanced up at me with the distracted expression I'd grown accustomed to over the past 3 months. Oh, you're back. How did the doctor visit go? They want to schedule surgery, I said, watching her face carefully. That's good, right? You'll finally stop complaining about the pain. She turned back to her laptop. I'm trying to finalize the centerpieces. Do you think roses or peonies say elegant sophistication more? Marina, did you withdraw money from our emergency account? Her fingers paused over the keyboard for just a moment. Just long enough to confirm what I already knew. We had to cover some unexpected expenses for the wedding. Don't worry, Amber's going to pay us back after the honeymoon. $12,000. It's not that much, Darren. And this is important. This is Amber's dream wedding. I sat down across from her, moving aside a stack of invitation samples. What about my surgery? Your surgery can wait. The wedding is next Saturday. It's not like you're fading or anything. The casual cruelty of that statement hit me like a physical blow. Not like I was fading. Just slowly losing kidney function, living with constant pain, facing the possibility of permanent damage. But not fading, so it could wait. The doctor said if I don't have surgery within 2 weeks, I could have permanent kidney failure. Marina finally looked up from her laptop, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never noticed before. Impatience, like I was a problem she needed to solve so she could get back to more important things. You're being dramatic. you've had kidney stones before. This is different, Marina. This is serious. So is Amber's wedding. Do you know how much stress she's been under? The venue almost double-booked them. The florist tried to substitute cheaper flowers, and the photographer wanted to charge extra for the reception shots. She needs our support right now. Our support? $12,000 of our support, taken without asking, while I sat in a doctor's office learning that my health was deteriorating. I stood up slowly, feeling every ache in my lower back where the kidney stones had been wreaking havoc for months. I'm going to lie down. Can you look at these menu options first? I need a man's perspective on the beef selection. I left her sitting there, surrounded by the debris of someone else's dream wedding, funded by my emergency medical fund. In our bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and called my friend Jake. Darren, how'd the doctor visit go? Jake Morrison had worked with me at the Fleet Yard for 12 years. He was the kind of friend who'd help you move a couch or hide a body, depending on what you needed. More importantly, he was the kind of friend who'd tell you the truth even when it hurt. Not great. I need surgery, and Marina spent our emergency fund on her sister's wedding. The silence on Jake's end was different from Dr. Heller's. This was the silence of a man trying not to say something he'd regret. How much? Jake finally asked. $12,000, the whole account. Jesus, Darren. Without asking? She has access to the account. Technically, she didn't need to ask. Technically, a lot of things are legal that ain't right. What are you going to do? I looked around our bedroom, at the unmade bed Marina had left that morning, at the pile of her clothes on the chair, at the framed photo of her and Amber from last Christmas, both of them grinning like they shared some secret joke. I don't know yet, but I'm going to do something. That night, Marina came to bed late, after spending 3 more hours on wedding planning calls with Amber. She slipped under the covers without saying goodnight, and I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, thinking about chocolate fountains and ice sculptures, and the casual way she'd dismissed my health. Somewhere around 2 a.m, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was planning. The next morning, Marina was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to final dress fitting with Amber. Back tonight. Can you pick up dry cleaning? Even her handwriting looked impatient. I called in sick to work, which wasn't entirely a lie, considering the constant ache in my side, and spent the morning going through our financial records. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. The withdrawals hadn't started a week ago. They'd been going on for 2 months, small amounts at first. 500 here, 800 there. Marina had been systematically draining our emergency fund to pay for Amber's wedding expenses, and she'd gotten so comfortable with it that the final withdrawal, the big one that triggered the bank alert, was just the culmination of a long campaign of theft. Because that's what it was, theft, from her own husband's medical fund. I printed out the bank statements and sat at the kitchen table, adding up the numbers. $14,700. Not $12,000. Almost $15,000, taken over 8 weeks to fund flowers, catering deposits, venue fees, and something called bridal experience package that cost $2,000 alone. My phone rang. Jake. How you feeling today, buddy? Like my wife's been robbing me blind for 2 months. Shit. It's worse than you thought? Almost $15,000. She's been taking money since March. Jake was quiet for a moment. Darren, I got to ask you something, and you might not like it. Go ahead. You think Marina knows how serious your health situation is? I'd been asking myself the same question. I think she knows and doesn't care. Or she cares more about looking good at her sister's wedding than she does about my kidneys. That's cold, man, even for Marina. Jake had never liked my wife, though he'd been polite about it for years. Marina thought Jake was beneath us, a blue-collar worker without ambition or sophistication. Jake thought Marina was a social climber who'd married me because I had a steady job and decent benefits, then spent our marriage looking for something better. Turned out Jake was a better judge of character than I was. I'm going to see a lawyer, I said. About divorce? About everything, the money, the marriage, all of it. Good. You want company? No, but thanks. I need to handle this myself. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet house and tried to remember the last time Marina and I had laughed together. Really laughed, not the polite chuckles we exchanged when one of us made a mild joke about the weather or work. I couldn't remember. Somewhere over the past year, we'd become roommates who shared expenses and occasionally shared a bed. But roommates don't steal from each other's medical funds. I was looking up divorce attorneys online when I heard Marina's key in the front door. She came in carrying shopping bags and talking loudly on her phone. Told her the seamstress could take it in, but she's being such a drama queen about it. It's 2 inches, not 2 feet. She saw me at the kitchen table with the printed bank statement spread out in front of me, and her conversation faltered. Amber, I'll call you back. Marina set down her shopping bags and looked at the papers on the table. For a moment, neither of us spoke. You went through our bank records, she said finally. Our records, our money, that you stole. I didn't steal anything. We're married. It's community property. Community property for community decisions. You took $15,000 without telling me. Her face flushed, but not with shame. With irritation, like I was being unreasonable. It's Amber's wedding, Darren. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. It's her third wedding. This is different. Kyle is perfect for her, and they're doing it right this time. The whole family is contributing. What's Amber contributing? Marina's mouth opened, then closed. We both knew the answer. Amber was contributing her presence, her vision, her demanding personality, and her ability to make everyone around her feel guilty if they didn't sacrifice for her happiness. She's the bride, Marina said finally, and I'm your husband, with a serious medical condition that we can no longer afford to treat because you gave our money to your sister. You're being selfish. The word hung in the air between us like a toxic cloud. Selfish, for wanting to use my own money for my own medical care. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of the house. Go stay with Amber or your mother or whoever, but get out. Marina's eyes widened. In 6 years of marriage, I'd never asked her to leave. I'd never even raised my voice at her. I was the accommodating husband, the reasonable one, the man who compromised. You can't kick me out of my own house. Watch me. I stood up, and Marina took a step back. I'm not a big man, but I'm not small either, and something in my voice must have convinced her I was serious. Fine, I'll stay at Amber's tonight, but we're going to talk about this tomorrow, after you've calmed down. No, we're not. Tomorrow I'm filing for divorce. Marina stared at me like I'd slapped her. Over money? You're going to divorce me over money? I'm going to divorce you because you stole from me, because you put your sister's party ahead of my health, because when I told you I might have permanent kidney damage, you said it wasn't that serious. I never said... You said I wasn't fading, so the surgery could wait. Marina's face went pale. She'd forgotten saying it, but I could see in her eyes that she remembered now. Darren, I didn't mean... Yes, you did. You meant exactly that. Get out. She left 20 minutes later with 2 suitcases and her laptop, still talking on the phone with Amber, her voice high and defensive. I heard fragments as she loaded her car. Completely unreasonable. And doesn't understand how important and so selfish about money. After her car disappeared down the street, I sat in my quiet house and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Then I called the lawyer. Attorney Sarah Tremaine had the kind of reputation that made other lawyers nervous. She specialized in what she called financial misconduct in domestic relationships, which was a polite way of saying she helped people who'd been screwed over by their spouses. Her office was in a converted Victorian house downtown, and she met with me the next morning wearing a sharp gray suit and an expression that suggested she'd heard stories like mine before. $15,000 over 2 months, she said, reviewing the bank statements I'd brought. All for a wedding that isn't hers. Is there anything I can do legally? Depends on what you want to accomplish. You want the money back, or you want to make a point? Both. Sarah smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. I like clients who are honest about wanting revenge. It makes my job easier. She explained my options. In a community property state, Marina had legal access to our joint accounts, but taking money designated for medical expenses without spousal consent could be considered financial abuse, especially if it resulted in harm to my health. The trick, Sarah said, is timing. Your wife's sister's wedding is this Saturday? Yes. And the vendors, venue, caterers, they've all been paid with your money, as far as I know? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to file an emergency injunction claiming financial abuse and demanding immediate asset protection. I'm also going to send certified letters to every vendor involved in this wedding, informing them that the payments they received were made without proper authorization and may be subject to legal recovery. I stared at her. You can do that? I can do that. Will it hold up in court? Maybe, maybe not. But it'll sure as hell ruin a wedding. What about Marina? What about her? She made her choice when she took your medical money. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Sarah's plan was elegant in its simplicity. The legal documents would be filed and served on Friday afternoon, 1 day before the wedding. The vendor notifications would go out the same day. By Saturday morning, Amber's dream wedding would be in chaos, and Marina would be scrambling to explain how she'd funded it. This is going to get ugly, Sarah warned me. Your wife and her family are going to come after you hard. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Marina's casual dismissal of my health, about the months of secret withdrawals, about the way she'd called me selfish for wanting medical care. I'm prepared. Friday afternoon, I was at work when Sarah called. Papers are filed and served. Your wife's been notified, and the vendor letters went out an hour ago. My phone had been buzzing all day with calls from Marina, but I'd let them go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to talk to her yet. I wanted her to sweat for a while. At 5 o'clock, Jake found me in my office, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "Darren, you magnificent bastard. Do you know what you've done?" "Hopefully ruined a wedding." "Oh, you've done way more than that. My cousin works at the Riverside Event Center. That's where the wedding's supposed to be tomorrow." The Riverside was the fanciest venue in town, the kind of place that charged $5,000 just to walk through the door, exactly the kind of place Amber would choose for her dream wedding. The venue manager got the lawyer letter around 2 o'clock. Jake continued. By 3, they'd locked down the entire event and demanded proof that all payments were legitimate. When they couldn't get confirmation, they canceled the whole thing. The whole wedding? The whole wedding. Venue, catering, flowers, music, everything. And here's the best part. It's too late to book anywhere else for tomorrow. Every decent place in the city is already booked for Saturday weddings. I felt a surge of satisfaction that was probably unhealthy, but definitely deserved. "There's more," Jake said. "The caterer is demanding immediate payment for the food they already prepared. The florist wants their flowers back, and the photographer is threatening to sue for breach of contract." "How do you know all this?" "Because Amber's been calling everyone she knows, screaming about lawsuits and conspiracies and demanding that someone fix this mess. Word gets around." My phone rang. Marina again. This time I answered. "Darren, what the hell have you done?" Her voice was shrill with panic. "I protected my assets from further theft." "You've ruined everything. The wedding is tomorrow." "Was tomorrow. I hear it's been canceled." "This is insane. You can't destroy Amber's wedding because you're mad about money." "I can, and I did. Maybe next time she'll pay for her own party." "Darren, please. We can fix this. I'll put the money back." "With what? You spent it all." Marina was crying now. Ugly sobs that might have moved me a week ago. Now they just sounded like the tears of someone who'd finally faced consequences for their actions. "Amber's devastated. Her fiancé is talking about calling off the engagement. The whole family is furious." "Good. Maybe they'll learn something from this." "You're destroying my family." "You destroyed our marriage when you stole my medical money. We're even." I hung up and turned off my phone. Jake was staring at me with something approaching awe. "Jesus, Darren. Remind me never to piss you off." "You'd never steal from me." "Damn right I wouldn't." That evening, I sat in my quiet house and tried to feel guilty about what I'd done. A bride's wedding day was supposed to be special, sacred, the most important day of her life. I'd destroyed that. Then I remembered Marina's voice. "It's not like you're fading or anything." I didn't feel guilty at all. Saturday morning brought a level of chaos I hadn't anticipated. My phone, which I'd turned back on to call Dr. Heller's office, immediately exploded with missed calls and text messages. "Marina, please call me. We can work this out." "Amber, you piece of shit. You ruined my life." Marina's mother, "How could you do this to your own family?" Unknown number. "This is Kyle. We need to talk." And about 20 more in the same vein. I deleted them all and called Dr. Heller's office to reschedule my surgery. With the legal proceedings underway, Sarah had assured me I'd be able to recover enough money for the medical expenses. "We can get you in Tuesday morning," the scheduler said. "Will that work?" Perfect. I was making coffee when someone started pounding on my front door. Not knocking, pounding, like they were trying to break it down. "Darren, open this door right now." Amber's voice, pitched at a level that probably violated noise ordinances. I ignored her and continued making coffee. "I know you're in there. Your car's in the driveway." More pounding. I was starting to worry about the door frame. "Open up, you coward." I walked to the front window and looked out. Amber was standing on my porch in what looked like a wedding dress. Not the elegant gown she'd probably planned to wear, but a simpler white dress that screamed last-minute panic purchase. Her hair was done up in an elaborate style that must have taken hours, and her makeup was perfect, except for the mascara streaks from crying. Behind her, Marina sat in a car at the curb, talking animatedly on her phone. I opened the door. "There you are." Amber pushed past me into my house without invitation. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I have a pretty good idea." "You've destroyed my wedding, the most important day of my life." "I've prevented the theft of my medical funds. Your wedding was just collateral damage." Amber stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. In her world, her wedding was the center of the universe, and everything else, including my health, was supposed to revolve around it. Marina was going to pay you back. When? After I faded of kidney failure. You're not going to fade. You're being dramatic. There it was again. The casual dismissal of my health, the assumption that my medical needs were less important than her party. I was starting to understand why Marina had been so comfortable stealing from me. It ran in the family. Get out of my house, Amber. No, not until you fix this. I can't fix it. The vendors have been notified, the venue is locked down, and the legal papers are filed. It's over. Amber's face went red, then purple. For a moment, I thought she might have a stroke right there in my living room. You snake! I'll sue you. I'll take everything you have. With what lawyer? You just spent all your money on a wedding that isn't happening. That's when she hit me. It wasn't a hard hit. Amber was built for Instagram photos, not physical confrontation, but it was definitely a hit. An open-handed slap across the face that stung more from surprise than impact. Feel better? I asked. She hit me again, and this time I caught her wrist. That's assault, Amber. I could have you arrested. Let go of me. Gladly. I released her wrist and stepped back. Amber stood in my living room, breathing hard, her perfect wedding hair starting to come undone. This isn't over, she said. Yes, it is. After she left, I sat on my couch and tried to process what had just happened. I'd been slapped by a woman in a wedding dress in my own living room, and somehow I felt like I'd won the encounter. My phone rang. Jake. Dude, are you okay? I just saw Amber's car tearing out of your neighborhood like she was fleeing a crime scene. She came to discuss the wedding situation. How'd that go? She hit me. She what? Slapped me, twice. Jake was quiet for a moment. You want me to come over? No, I'm fine. But Jake? Yeah? This is just the beginning. They're going to come at me hard now. Let them come. You've got right on your side. Since when does that matter? Sunday was quieter, but only because I unplugged my landline and turned off my cell phone. I spent the day reading, cleaning the house, and trying to remember what it felt like to live without constant stress. Monday morning, I went back to work to find that the story had spread throughout the company. Apparently, Marina had called my supervisor to complain about my vindictive behavior and demand that he talk sense into me. My supervisor, Bill Henderson, was a good man who'd been married to the same woman for 30 years. He called me into his office first thing Monday morning. Darren, I got a strange call from your wife. Ex-wife. The divorce papers were filed Friday. She said you sabotaged her sister's wedding. I protected my medical funds from further theft. Bill leaned back in his chair. You want to tell me what really happened? I told him everything. The kidney stones, the surgery, the secret withdrawals, the wedding expenses. Bill listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker as the story progressed. $15,000, he said finally. $15,700? For someone else's wedding. Her third wedding. Bill shook his head. Darren, I've been married a long time, and I've seen a lot of marriage problems come through this office, but I've never seen anything this cold. Marina called it community property. Community property requires community decisions. What she did was theft, plain and simple. It felt good to hear someone else say it. For weeks, I'd been questioning myself, wondering if I was being unreasonable or selfish. Bill's reaction confirmed what I'd known in my gut. Marina had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Are you going to be okay? Bill asked. I'm having surgery tomorrow. After that, we'll see. Take all the time you need. And Darren? Yeah? If your ex-wife calls here again, I'm going to tell her exactly what I think of women who steal their husband's medical money. I went home that afternoon feeling better than I had in months. The surgery was scheduled, the legal proceedings were moving forward, and I had the support of people who mattered. But as I pulled into my driveway, I saw Marina's car parked on the street. She was sitting on my front porch, and she looked terrible. Red eyes, disheveled hair, clothes that looked like she'd slept in them. We need to talk, she said as I approached the house. No, we don't. Darren, please, just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let her into the house. She sat on the couch where we'd watched movies together for 6 years, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what, specifically? For taking the money without asking, for dismissing your health problems, for putting Amber's wedding ahead of our marriage. It was everything I'd wanted to hear, delivered with what seemed like genuine remorse. A week ago, it might have been enough. Okay, I said. Okay, that's it? You're sorry. I heard you. What else do you want me to say? I want you to forgive me. I want us to work this out. I looked at my wife, my ex-wife, sitting in our living room, asking for forgiveness after stealing $15,000 and dismissing my medical emergency. She looked sincere, contrite, genuinely sorry for what she'd done, but I remembered her voice on the phone. It's not like you're fading or anything. Marina, if I had cancer and we had money set aside for chemotherapy, would you have taken it for Amber's wedding? That's different. How? Cancer is life-threatening. So is kidney failure. She didn't have an answer for that, and her silence told me everything I needed to know. In Marina's mind, there was a hierarchy of medical problems, and mine didn't rank high enough to interfere with her sister's party. The divorce stands, I said. Darren, get out, Marina. I have surgery tomorrow, and I need to rest. She left without another word, and I spent my last evening as a married man watching television alone, eating takeout Chinese food, and feeling more at peace than I had in years. Tomorrow, I'd have surgery to save my kidneys. Next week, I'd start rebuilding my life without Marina and her family of emotional vampires. It was going to be a good year. The surgery went better than expected. Dr. Heller removed the kidney stones and repaired the damage, and I woke up Tuesday afternoon with a clear prognosis. Full recovery expected, no permanent damage, back to normal activities within 2 weeks. Jake was sitting beside my hospital bed when I opened my eyes. How you feeling, champ? Like someone kicked me in the kidneys, which technically they did. Good news is, you're going to be fine. Bad news is, your ex-wife and her sister have been calling the hospital trying to get information about your condition. What did you tell them? Nothing. HIPAA laws, you know. But they're persistent. I spent 2 days in the hospital, and it was the most peaceful 2 days I'd had in months. No wedding planning calls, no demands for money, no guilt trips about family obligations, just rest, recovery, and the satisfaction of knowing I'd stood up for myself. Sarah Tremaine visited me Wednesday afternoon with an update on the legal proceedings. The divorce is moving forward smoothly, she said. Marina's not contesting it, which suggests she knows she doesn't have a leg to stand on. What about the money? That's more complicated. Technically, she had legal access to the joint account, but the circumstances create a strong case for financial abuse. I think we can recover most of it, but it'll take time. How much time? 6 months, maybe more. But here's the interesting part. I've been contacted by 3 of the wedding vendors who want to sue Amber and Marina for breach of contract. I sat up straighter in my hospital bed. Sue them? Apparently, when the wedding was canceled, they refused to pay the vendors for services already rendered. The florist had already prepared $2,000 worth of arrangements. The caterer had purchased and prepared food for 200 people, and the photographer had cleared his entire weekend. How much are we talking about? Roughly $12,000 in vendor claims, and since the contracts were signed by both Amber and Marina, they're both liable. The irony was beautiful. Marina and Amber had tried to throw a lavish wedding with my money, and now they were facing lawsuits for the very event they'd stolen to fund. There's more, Sarah continued. Amber's fiancé broke up with her Sunday night. Apparently he was embarrassed by the whole situation and decided he didn't want to marry into a family of, quote, financial criminals. Ouch. It gets better. Marina's been staying with her mother, but they had a falling out yesterday. Something about Marina bringing shame on the family. She's currently living in a motel on the south side of town. I should have felt sorry for Marina. We'd been married for 6 years, and despite everything that had happened, I'd once loved her. But all I could think about was her voice saying, "It's not like you're fading or anything." What happens now? I asked. Now we wait for the legal process to play out. But Darren, I have to ask, are you satisfied with how this has gone? I thought about it. Marina was facing divorce and financial ruin. Amber had lost her wedding, her fiancé, and was being sued by multiple vendors. Both of them were learning what it felt like to face consequences for their actions. Yeah, I said, I'm satisfied. But I wasn't. Not completely. Thursday morning, I was discharged from the hospital and went home to find my front yard decorated with toilet paper and what looked like shaving cream on my windows. A note was taped to my front door. This is what you get for ruining families. The handwriting looked like Amber's. I called the police to report the vandalism, more for documentation than because I expected them to do anything about it. Officer Martinez took photos and a statement, but we both knew nothing would come of it. Looks like a domestic situation got out of hand, he said. You could say that. My advice? Get security cameras. This probably isn't over. He was right. Friday afternoon, I came home from work to find my mailbox knocked over and my garbage cans dumped in the street. Saturday morning, someone had keyed my car. Jake came over Saturday afternoon to help me clean up the latest mess. "This is getting out of hand," he said as we righted the mailbox for the second time. "It's just vandalism. They'll get bored eventually." "Will they? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like they're escalating." Jake was right, but I didn't want to admit it. I'd won the legal battle, but Marina and Amber weren't ready to accept defeat. They were going to keep coming at me until either they got tired or I made them stop. "What do you think I should do? Fight back, but not with vandalism and petty bullshit. Fight back the way you did with the wedding, smart, legal, and devastating." That evening, I sat in my living room and thought about what Jake had said. Marina and Amber wanted to play games? Fine. But they had picked the wrong opponent. I called Sarah Tremaine at home. "I want to file harassment charges," I said. "Based on what?" I told her about the vandalism, the threatening note, the escalating pattern of retaliation. "It's not much," Sarah said. "Misdemeanor vandalism at best." "What if I could prove they were doing it?" "How?" "Security cameras. Officer Martinez suggested them anyway. If you can get them on camera committing crimes, we can definitely pursue charges. But Darren, are you sure you want to escalate this further?" I thought about my peaceful hospital stay, about the relief I'd felt when Marina finally left the house, about the satisfaction of knowing my surgery had been successful. Then I thought about coming home to find my property vandalized and my car damaged. "Yeah," I said, "I'm sure." Sunday morning, I drove to the electronics store and bought a complete home security system, cameras, motion sensors, the works. Jake came over to help me install it, and by Sunday evening, my house was under complete surveillance. "Now we wait," Jake said as we tested the system. Now we wait. We didn't have to wait long. Monday night at 2:47 a.m., the motion sensors triggered and my phone buzzed with an alert from the security system. I opened the app and watched in real time as Amber crept across my front yard carrying what looked like a can of spray paint. I could have called the police right then, but I wanted to see how far she'd go. She spray painted "asshole" across my front door, then moved to my car and keyed it again, this time carving what looked like profanity into the paint. Finally, she dumped a bag of garbage across my front walkway and kicked over my mailbox again, all of it captured in high-definition video with perfect lighting from my motion-activated floodlights. I called the police. Officer Martinez arrived 20 minutes later and reviewed the footage on my phone. "Well, that's about as clear-cut as it gets," he said. "You want to press charges?" "Absolutely." "Vandalism, criminal mischief, probably trespassing. She's looking at fines and community service, maybe a few days in jail if she has priors. She doesn't. This is her first time getting caught." Amber was arrested Tuesday morning at the motel where she'd been staying since her mother kicked her out. The arrest made the local news, not because it was particularly newsworthy, but because it was a slow news day and bride arrested for vandalizing man who ruined wedding was the kind of story that got clicks. Marina called me Tuesday afternoon. "This has gone too far, Darren." "I agree. Amber should have thought about consequences before she decided to vandalize my property. She's in jail. She's facing the legal consequences of her actions, just like you're facing the legal consequences of stealing my money. We're family." "No, we're not. We're divorced, remember?" Marina was crying again, but this time it sounded different. Not manipulative tears designed to make me feel guilty, but genuine despair from someone whose world was falling apart. "What do you want from us?" she asked. "I want you to leave me alone. I want Amber to pay for the damage to my property. And I want both of you to learn that actions have consequences." "We've learned. Look at us. Amber's in jail. I'm living in a motel. The whole family thinks we're criminals. Isn't that enough?" I thought about it. Marina sounded genuinely broken, truly sorry for what she'd done. Amber was facing criminal charges and civil lawsuits. Both of them had lost everything they'd cared about. The wedding, the family approval, their comfortable lives. It should have been enough. But then I remembered the casual cruelty in Marina's voice when she dismissed my health concerns, and I realized it wasn't about punishment anymore. It was about making sure they never forgot the cost of treating other people like disposable resources. "No," I said, "it's not enough."